It was another emotional day as the father of Bokgabo, Paul, couldn't contain his emotions when his daughter's alleged killer appeared in court again. Ntokozo Zikali is accused of kidnapping, killing and mutilating the 4-year-old girl's body. The distraught father pleaded with the alleged killer on the whereabouts of his daughter's remains. Zikali will be back in court on the 14th of November. Meanwhile, in Cape Town, judgment has been reserved this afternoon in the trial of the man accused of kidnapping, raping and murdering 8-year-old TAZNE'S van Wyk. Our reporters Slindelo, Masikane and Nobesuthu Hejana attended both court cases, and they join me now for an update. So, Slee, let's start with you and the situation around Bokgabo Paul. Just such a terribly emotional case, and once again that poor father absolutely distraught. Just tell us what happened in court today.
Certainly another emotional, another tense day inside the Benoni Magistrates Court, and it seems court officials were ready and were expecting the scenes that we saw playing out once again today, where the police presence and security was heightened outside of the courtroom as well as inside, and we saw the family of Bokgabo once again having to come face to face with the man accused essentially of raping, killing, and then mutilating their 4-year-old baby girl. So what we saw, of course, was outside the Wattville community coming out to support the family, but inside those emotional scenes, you could clearly see that Bokgabo's mother as well as her father were quite pained at the sight of Zikali. It was quite a short appearance for him, where both of his matters, in fact, were heard. The first matter where he's accused of rape and where he was out on bail when Bokgabo disappeared. In that matter, his lawyer also withdrew from the matter, and legal aid taking over both cases, but saying that they need time to familiarize themselves with both cases, but also saying that they would not at this stage be applying for bail in the Bokgabo matter, pending the outcome of the state's application to have his bail revoked in his other rape case. And so we saw then Mr. Ndlovu, Bokgabo's father, shouting at Zikali as he was being led back into holding cells, basically begging and pleading with him to tell the family where the rest of Bokgabo's body parts are, because at this point they are struggling to come to terms with what happened, because they cannot bury her without the remainder of her body parts. Let's take a listen to Mr. Ndlovu in terms of his outburst and what he had to say, coming face to face once again with the man accused of killing his daughter.
I want to bury my child. Tell me. Can you say where the body parts
Yeah, and we certainly saw the first time Bokgabo's dad saw the accused, and that happened where he tried to actually get at him. That was last week sometime, I think it was, or the week before. Now just begging to know where the rest of his daughter's remains are. I mean, utterly horrific. At the same time, you mentioned little Bokgabo's mum was in court today as well. That must have been a particularly difficult ordeal for her.
Very difficult. She could not attend the first appearance of Zikali, but you could see in her face just how traumatized she was, holding back tears, but she had the support of her family. We spoke to her sister after court proceedings. She was just telling us how difficult the past couple of weeks have been, and that it's just quite difficult to tell the community, those who are interested in the matter, exactly when funeral arrangements will be made, because at this point the body hasn't been released to them, but of course it's not complete either. And when we were speaking to Bokgabo's mother last week, she herself was calling for the death penalty, saying that the justice system essentially let her down, let her child down, by allowing Zikali to be released on bail pending pending the outcomes of the first matter that he's charged with rape for. So let's just take a listen then to Bokgabo's sister, Bokgabo's aunt, that is Tulufelo's sister, in terms of how Bokgabo's mother is doing.
Last week she wasn't available here at court because she was asked to go to the mortuary, but today seeing the perpetrator really brought up a lot of emotions for her. She's really feeling overwhelmed. She's not okay. Like, I also am not okay seeing the guy again. Like, it's bringing up a lot of emotions for us as a family.
And we also know that Bokgabo's mum actually said only the death sentence would satisfy her for the person responsible for her daughter's death. The community has been very actively involved in expressing their feelings about this case. What are they saying?
Yeah, so of course, once again, a very strong presence from the Ekurhuleni community, not just the Wattville area that came out today, as well as political parties that really have been enraged by this crime. It brings once again into the spotlight, into the fray, the issue of gender-based violence and just how unsafe those who are most vulnerable in society are. And we know, of course, that there's speculation that is rife around the fact that Bokgabo may have been a victim of a Muti killing at this point. Given the fact that we don't know where the remainder of her missing body parts are, the rumors continue that her body parts may have been sold or may have been, used by Zikale for some kind of witchcraft. And one of the groups outside court was a traditional healers organization that wanted to clarify that they condemn in the strongest manner the way in which baby Bokgabo passed away, but also wanting to clarify that traditional healers don't use body parts as part of their ways of making muti, saying that those kinds of people are the ones actually partaking in witchcraft. Let's take a listen.
As traditional healers, we don't use human flesh or human body parts to cure any disease. We only use herbs to heal people. We really condemn this kind of tragedy to an innocent child, because you can't kill someone or you can't kill an innocent child just to make muti with it. We don't like that. Sizinyanga thina si against ukuthathwa amaphatsi wabantu, whether umntwana or umuntu omdala. We against that.
All right, well, thank you for updating us on that case here in Johannesburg, Slee. Nobesuthu, Hejana, I want to bring you in from Cape Town. Of course, you've been covering also such a heartbreaking story, and that, of course, is about the rape and murder of 8-year-old TAZNE van Wyk. Her body was found just near the N1 in Worcester in February this year. And the man accused of killing her, Moidan Pangaka, of course has maintained all along that he and TAZNE were abducted by 4 drug dealers, and they're the ones who perpetrated this crime. So judgment was expected today, but delayed. Could you tell us exactly why it was reserved and not delivered today as expected?
Well, Sally, from the initial charge sheet presented by the state of the witnesses, there were about 90 state witnesses, but we do understand that only 37 people testified in court, which include some of the family members who have also opened a case against Mr. Moidan Pangaka, as he is in trial, or he was in trial, for the rape, murder, and the kidnapping of 8-year-old TAZNE van Wyk back in 2020. We do know that in February, on the 7th of February 2020, 8-year-old TAZNE van Wyk was reported missing after she was seen or last seen playing just outside her house, which was we do also know that she had been sent to a shop opposite her house, and that was the last time that the community saw her. But according to Mr. Pangaka's trial or testimony during the trial, he did mention that, he was on his way to arrange a lift to Worcester when he was approached by a taxi, and the people inside the taxi who were asking him directions for the Malawi camp in the area, which he did not know at the time, but out of nowhere 8-year-old TAZNE' van Wyk appeared and did mention that she wanted to show the directions to that Malawi camp. And later on during his testimony, he mentioned that him and TAZNE' were victims of some sort of a kidnapping by those 4 foreign national people whom he said they were speaking a language that he did not understand. But from this reservement of the judgment, because of the other cases or matters in this particular case where he is also facing 8 counts of rape, as well as the murder and kidnappings, which also relate to other family members. The TAZNE' matter is literally at the end of his matter from the 27 charges that he is currently facing, and he has pleaded not guilty on. So we know that Judge Alan Mehar is only on page 48 of his indictment sheet charge, and there's about 120 some odd pages that he still needs to go through, because he's reading each charge based on the count of or rather the case that has been opened. So at this stage it's pretty much unclear when the judgment will be made. There is a possibility that it could be tomorrow or Wednesday, given the amount of witnesses that testified in court. But at this stage, Mr. Pangaka, even his demeanor in court, it was a bit different from his previous, when he was giving his testimony during his trial. He was a bit reserved today and did not want to take off his mask, because previously he had been showing his face and even speaking to the members of the media. But today he was a bit different. But the judgment is expected to continue tomorrow also. We're hoping that maybe by Wednesday there will be a verdict given by the Western Cape High Court.
Well, thank you so much for that update, Nobesuthu. And certainly, as you say, tomorrow or Wednesday we're going to get judgment. And similarly to the case that Slee was just outlining around a little girl, Bokgabo, there's also been a huge amount of community support for the families around TAZNE' van Wyk and the family and friends. They are now making an interesting call. They're saying life sentence with no parole. Let's just take a listen to that clip.
Definitely what I'd like to see happen. Clearly he's going to have a few life sentences. That's pretty clear from what the judge was reading today. But we also hope that it does not run concurrently but consecutively, so that if you get a couple of life sentences, it doesn't just run as one, and that he never, ever be eligible for parole. And he sat in court today with his head down most of the time. And when he was giving his own testimony, he was putting the blame on everyone else but himself. His daughter raped him and the blame was just being put on everyone else. So he clearly is not eligible for parole. He shows no remorse whatsoever. He takes no responsibility for his actions. And especially with regards to TAZNE'S case, what he did to her is just unacceptable. And the fact that he absconded from parole for so long, he was not monitored, and the parole board has failed society. And if the parole board actually acted immediately, then maybe TAZNE' would be alive today. So I do hope that he gets the toughest sentence possible with no parole ever.
All right, so let's hope some justice for TAZNE' either tomorrow or Wednesday. Thank you so much, Nobesuthu Hejana, for bringing us up to date on that case. And also Slindelo Masikane, who's covering the rape and murder case of little Bokgabo. That case resumes on the 14th of November.